Budget Lawns.
What's up,
That is,
Joe?
I'm I'm doing
Are you
doing great.
doing? Are you
I'm
ready?
doing.
Are you ready for this? All right, I'm tipping this over, okay? Here we go. We're going to talk for about 5 minutes. We're going to be here just hanging out. You can call this whatever you like the 5 minute pre-show. Well, I don't know. We're not going to get all hell bent on having a title for everything, but we're going to let this 5 minute hourglass. Joe, would you call this a 5 minute hourglass or would you just call it a 5 minute glass? I don't know the right terminology.
Um, Hourglass.
Hour that lasts 5 minutes.
That last 5 minutes, yeah.
Hey, what's up, someone? How are you? But we're gonna let this 5 minutes dwindle down, and then we are going to. Hey, JD, what's up, man? What's up, Rusty? We're gonna let this empty, and then we're gonna kick off with the show. We got some juicy stuff planned for you tonight. This is the second edition of this, right, Jim?
Yeah. Second edition,
Joe.
episode 2.
Yeah.
The
Hey,
unlikely duo.
what's up, Will? What's up, Jeff? Hey, appreciate y'all being here. So, Joe, what did you just ask me? You asked
I
me
asked,
something before somebody come on. We came on
yeah, I
here.
asked you what you have for dinner,
Oh man, we're still all my
or what you like to say. What did you have for supper?
supper. Yeah, dude, supper. This is the South, man.
So I know supper up here is like what an older person would call dinner.
Yeah, it's like the early bird special.
Yeah, exactly.
No, we're still chomping away at Super Bowl leftovers.
Oh, nice.
I mean,
We had a homemade chicken noodle soup.
ooh, what's the weather like there?
Actually, today was nice. It was in the 50s. It was like our high. It's still getting
Okay,
down to like I don't know 30s, some like mid 30s at night. It's
nice.
warming up.
Eh,
I got a couple patches of some green coming in.
And you still haven't had a full blown measurable snow like we have here, have you?
Nah, no, the kids pissed me off enough tonight with their stupid sled inside. I threw it out the back. I threw it out the back door, and it almost went into the pool. So yeah,
Well, before you know it, you won't have to worry about them wanting the sled. It'll be time for the pool, and they won't even be thinking about the snow that wasn't there this winter. Hey, what's
yeah.
up, Millennium Man? Appreciate that. Hey, we talked about it here on the show last week. Folks were wondering who is this Joe guy, and I'm starting to realize that you know what, Joe? There might have been a few people that weren't sure who you were last week, but I don't think we knew this when we decided to team up on this. That we're both. I've noticed on a lot of people's, like Millennium said, favorite grass YouTubers. Where we kind of thought we were the polar opposites in ways at one time. That little did we know that hey, we're a little bit more alike than we originally thought we were.
Yeah, I would say so. More in common than most people would think. Being from two completely different regions of the United States.
Yeah, so if you're just popping in, hey, we this is what we're doing here on the show every week. We're here at 9 Eastern, 8 Central. We're going to let this little 5 minute glass run down. A lot of shows out there doing a timer. They make you sit there and kind of sit alone by yourself in anticipation, listening to some music of their choice or the music YouTube picks out. But we thought, you know what, we're going to jump in here and we're not going to start, our topics that we've got planned for you, but we're just going to talk. You can call this whatever you want, the pre-show, but if you just want to come in and just hear us kind of talk, well, the whole show's off the cuff, right, Joe? But this is more,
Yeah, no scripts
there's
here.
no plan for this. There's no plan for this. So we are just going to, we're going to be part of this little 5 minute pre-show with you. So we hope you'll join us before things get kicking off every Tuesday evening, and that starts at 7:55. And then the meat and potatoes goes at 8 Central, 9 Eastern.
What time do we talk about the affiliate links? Is that
Uh, Joe, I'm all for a good joke, but I don't want to make the joke
in the
every single.
Hubachar and
I don't want to make the same joke every week with my blank list
Yeah.
of you can really wear things out. Hey, look, speaking of wearing things out, that's gone. We'll put this away. Hey, y'all, look, we are called the program with no name. Perhaps that becomes the name of the show. Right now, we don't have a name for this. We just want to hop on once a week with y'all. Kind of the unlikely duo we are of me, me, Travis from Budget Lawns, and Joe. Introduce yourself for some of the folks that last week were losing their minds not knowing who this Joe from Jersey guy is.
Yeah, so I am the artist formerly known as the Lawn Warrior. That was my channel for the last almost 2 years. I'm located up here in Jersey, so I'm about 20 minutes from Philadelphia in South Jersey. Obviously, I'm wearing a Sixers hat. Big Eagles fan. Go Birds. We'll talk about the Super Bowl here in a little bit, but yeah, so I have tall fescue up where I live at. And I've been at my house now for probably about 5, 6 years. Seeded it the last 2 years with Mountain View seed that I got at Tuckahoe Turf Farms, which we'll talk about them here probably tonight as well. And yeah, so I do my channel it's a lot of grass content, but I'm kind of switching over to doing stuff that I more like to do as well, like woodworking kind of stuff. I like making different kind of signs with wood, just different things like that. So I'm going to be doing a little bit of everything this year, trying to broaden my channel a little bit. Now I'm known as Wooder Boy Productions, and Wooder is spelled Wooder. That's how we say it up here. We don't say water, we say Wooder. So I'm Joe. Nice to meet you all.
So, if you don't know a little bit more of the backstory about how Joe and I got connected, Joe, we mentioned it last week. Neither of us was really big fans of each other at one time. Joe used to make some videos that kind of poke fun at me, and he probably thought I was some redneck hillbilly from Arkansas. And you know what? I thought, yeah, well, yeah, that's funny, but maybe, just maybe, there's something there for a show with some guy from South Jersey and a guy from Arkansas. So that's how we linked up on this, and we hoped that we would be coming to you tonight because Joe being from the outskirts of Philadelphia, and me being somehow a Philadelphia Eagles fan from Arkansas, we were hoping that we would be coming to you tonight with a little bit different of a topic of conversation, and that would have been an Eagles victory. But here we are. Joe has quickly. I would imagine if we would have won on Sunday, Joe, you would still be wearing that.
I had a big victory to yell out, like my boy Ike Reese does on our sports radio up here after an Eagles victory. But yeah, it was I like I told a lot of people, this Super Bowl was kind of special for me in particular, just because my sons, they were old enough now. At least my oldest was too. My oldest, he was 1 at the time when we won the Super Bowl, back in 2018. And so it was cool being them staying up with us, watching the whole game, watching the halftime. So I just told my youngest at night, I just said to him, like, you're not going to remember this. I said, and I told him one day we'll be watching one together when they win, hopefully, and it won't take 52 years to get us a win, but it's the life of a Philadelphia sports fan. That's what I say to people. There's a lot of ups and a lot of downs. So
I made a post Sunday morning because the last time the Eagles won the Super Bowl, my little girl was only 8 months old, and I don't know if you saw the edit that I made on my post. I said, hoping that this day ends like this one, and it was me and my wife and a little girl, and I went back after the game and put edit. It didn't. So we're not going to be talking about a Super Bowl victory, but I've already seen it in the chat. Of course, we're going to give some opinions on, for some of you, what you think the most important thing of the Super Bowl was. For me, it was the game. The grass was really not even on my radar.
It was a non-factor.
It was a non-factor for me. Really, it was getting together with my family, the game, and the food. So Joe and I, we were texting, before and after the game about, food because I'm wondering what do these people from Philadelphia eat for the Super Bowl? And typical burgers, wings for folks. But I wanted to share something with y'all. I wanted to share this last week, but things we were kind of figuring things out as we go. But this is a little something that maybe you don't know about me. But when it comes to Super Bowl food, back in 2017, your boy Travis from Budget Lawns was actually on the Super Bowl episode of
Oh,
Food
wow.
Network's show, The Kitchen. This is me and my three, or well, two brothers, three of us that I used to own a restaurant with for 10 years. We were all three on The Kitchen's. They called it the Big Game Day episode because something about trademark the name Super Bowl, and of course
Yep. Yep.
that could be used. But yeah, we got to go in there and share some of our secrets and things that we do in our restaurant and some of our recipes for some of our more popular items, and tell folks some ideas for, I don't know, maybe what they can enjoy for the big game when it comes to food.
Now,
Because
what are you cooking there? Do you
in this
remember?
picture, this is me and Sonny Anderson, the restaurant that I used to own. One of our really big, hot, items was an old recipe that my dad used to serve us when we were real little. It was his sauteed mushroom recipe that would just simmer for
Mm,
hours and hours and cook down. So we put those on the menu. We called them Dad's mushrooms. And
nice.
here, Sonny and I was showing her how to do the mushrooms. So that was a fun
Nice.
experience. That was all the way back in two. I think we shot that, Joe, and I told you Montclair, New Jersey,
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
2016, and then it aired just before the Super Bowl, week or two before the Super Bowl in 2017. So that was a fun experience. But this year, look, I'm burgered out. This year we had pizzas, a big spread of dips and crackers, and more desserts than we could possibly imagine. Joe asked me earlier what we had for supper. We're still eating leftovers from the Super Bowl, and when they're long days, sometimes it's nice just to be able to come home and have something
I'm
already
not
ready
a
for you.
I'm personally not a big leftover guy. I gotta have it's gotta be fresh or it's gotta be, cooked that day. I don't know, something about leftovers. I know it sounds horrible, but it's just it, I don't know. It's just like same thing. Like I know a lot of people like cold pizza or like leftover pizza, but like it's just not the same when when it comes fresh out of the oven, and that's what I had. I had it's called grandma's pizza. It's like a tomato pie basically.
Mm-hmm.
Um and I got it from this place. It's thin crust. It's a square. It's almost like a Sicilian style, but not. And just some things, not just. It really wasn't a lot of people this year for me. My sister and her partner, they were working. They're nurses, so they didn't get done till late. So you know, but it's pizza and wings. You can't go wrong. We have a lot of wings is like a big thing in our area. Um, it's just there's a couple places that are very well known for wings. One restaurant's called PJ Willihan's. There's locations everywhere. There's locations in our stadiums, that we have in the Wells Fargo Center. And then the other big place is called Chickies and Pete's. And Chickies and Pete's, they're known for their crab fries. Old Bay on the fries. That's their big thing. And then when you go to a ball, usually that's the only time I usually get them is when I go to a Phillies game. There's nothing like going to a Phillies game, sitting at the stadium, just relaxing and having a beer and having crab fries with like the melted cheese. It's just the best. It really is. It's really good.
Well, I could sit here and talk about food all day, but I got a feeling
Oh
some of the folks want to hear a little bit about some grass stuff. Hey, Joe,
yeah.
you mentioned you already see a little green popping through. It's been a pretty mild winter there for you in Jersey, so not surprising that maybe you're seeing a little green in the cool season grass. But you're not going to believe it. I actually listen. Folks got to listen because I'm going to explain this. But I actually did my first bit of lawn care yesterday. Okay, which that's kind of out of the norm for me. Typically, I won't touch anything in the lawn until about spring break. But this year was a little bit different because last year, if you've been following along here on my channel on Budget Lawns, this will be my second season coming up on a new Bermuda grass lawn. So for about the first year, I don't hit the lawn with anything. As far as herbicides, all that kind of stuff goes, I don't touch any of that stuff in the first year. So I wasn't on my same pre-emergent schedule. I know a lot of folks are wanting to know when is it time to get a pre-emergent down. And this is not to say that this isn't a good practice when it comes to keeping track of your soil temperatures. A lot of folks, that's their way to determine whether or not it's time to get a pre-emergent application down, especially in the spring, because you don't want to miss that window and then end up with crabgrass and some of those warm season weeds popping up in your lawn. But I don't mess with the soil temperatures, Joe. I just kind of stay on a pretty frequent routine schedule with, products that they're going to last you 90 to 120 days anyways. So typically, outside of this year, because it being different with a new lawn where I didn't put a pre-emergent down on it for almost the first year, but typically I'll put my pre-emergent down once in the fall towards the third week of September or so. And that's going to keep me covered through the fall months and get me to my next application, which I'll typically put down right after the first of the year. And that second application, the first one of each year, is gonna get me all the way up to what I would consider the third. It's kind of weird because it's 2 different years, but you could go either in any way on that. But I'll put that one down. I'll put my second one down around January 1st. Then my third one will go down around the third week of March. And I have found that if I stay on that consistent schedule, and it waffles one way or the other sometimes, just depends on the weather. Like this morning, we had about a half an inch of rain here in Northwest Arkansas. So I would have liked to have gotten the application down last week, but the pre-emergent needs to be watered in. So I'm just constantly checking the forecast to see when I've got a good chance of rain coming. And that thing said 100% chance of rain for this morning. So I threw it down last night before we ate supper, because it's called supper and not dinner. And I threw that down. So this one that I threw down today, because I'm off my schedule, is not the one that is going to be my summer pre-emergent application to prevent summer weeds like crabgrass, or you'd call that your spring application. I'm trying to just work this year out of schedule, and then I'll be back on that normal schedule September, January, and then the third week of March. I do those three, and then I'm covered. It's got me covered pretty much all year long, because once the season starts, that lawn's going to be so thick and dense, and I'm going to be mowing it so much, those weeds aren't going to have a chance anyways.
That's kind of what I'm under the philosophy of, don't put it down. Don't feel like you have to put it down because other people are putting it down, kind of thing. Like last year, I didn't put like I'm not against herbicides, but like I don't want to use them if I have to. And I didn't put down any kind of pre-emergent. And honestly, the only parts of my lawn that I really saw any kind of crabgrass creeping into was like along our sidewalk, along our curb line that kind of meets the asphalt from the street and things like that. And overall, I really didn't see, a ton of, or I don't see a need to have to put down. Now, obviously, I'm cool season. It's a little bit different up here, especially with tall fescues, not a spreading grass. And I have a little Kentucky bluegrass mixed in, but not a ton. And
Well, Joe, you said something there, Joe, that's really the most important thing when it comes to weeds. I have always noticed, just like you just said, most of the time you're going to notice that your crabgrass and your summer weeds are nearest your concrete surfaces, your driveway, your sidewalk. Those areas are getting that sun in the spring, and it's heating that soil up faster, because it's that concrete heats up a lot faster, and those areas are heating up in the soil faster than interior areas of your lawn. So that's really where I see my weeds. I mean, more than anywhere, it's around the patios and the sidewalks and the driveways. So if you just keep mowing and you keep a thick turf, It's amazing. Like I didn't use
Oh,
a
yeah.
single herbicide on this lawn last year, and I was able to eradicate a huge chunk of the weeds. And I have not used a post-emergent herbicide on my lawn in, I think, since 2018 was the last time I used one. So
Yeah,
it's,
that's a long time, yeah.
and we've
Yeah, I
talked
mean,
about that. If we don't have to use an
yeah.
herbicide, we just don't.
Eh, yeah, exactly. I mean, I have a weeder. It's called the Grandpa's weeder. It's you can get it on Amazon for like, I don't know, 20 bucks or something. And it's a stand-up weed puller. And if you see a couple things of, of weeds or even dandelions, you see a couple dandelions popping up in your lawn and don't feel like you got to get out there and spray it. Go out there, put the weeder down there, takes 2 seconds, pull it back. They even have ones that like are automatic and you kind of like lock it in and it pushes out the weed and you can just have a bucket with you and just put it in the bucket and that's it. I mean, you don't I mean these people, that got to have these perfect lawns and this and that and God forbid if you don't have if you got a weed in it, you gotta go out there, kind of thing. It's like, it's the end of the world, and it's not. It's really not. I
It,
mean,
it, and you keep saying
I
the
mean,
same.
everyone's different. I mean, everyone's different, but for me, my mentality this year is to do less, just enjoy the lawn, and for what it is.
Hey, Rusty's asking, so no Poa annua. Look, my old house. Look, I was so green when I started doing lawn care back when I first became a homeowner in 2017, and I remember that first winter the Poa was coming up, and I was like, "This is the weirdest crap ever." I thought Bermuda grass was a warm season grass, and here's my lawn. And I got green in the middle, like in early spring, late winter, and I'm telling you,
Yeah,
once I started doing that schedule of pre-emergent September, January, March, aside from those perimeter areas along your fence where it gets thinner and barer
mhm.
because you're weed eating and taking the trimmer through there, I rarely saw the Poa annua in the thick, dense, well maintained parts of the lawn. And not to mention, Poa is so freaking easy to pull that stuff out of the ground. If you'll just get like a 5 gallon bucket or something from time to time, I'm a weirdo that likes to pick weeds. So if my lawn were perfectly clear of weeds at all times, then if you ask me, that's going to eliminate one of the things that I actually enjoy about lawn care, and that's just like zoning out and walking through the lawn with a little small bucket and just picking weeds. Like I don't know, it's just weird.
Relaxing factor. I mean, it's a just to get away and escape from reality kind of thing. And like, I believe me, I have POA issues in my lawn. I mean, my nickname is Joey Poa in some places, and
There's people out there that are burning their freaking lawns down over Poa annua. Look, and if
yeah,
you're a cool season
yeah,
person, maybe that's different because
yeah,
it's harder to get rid of. Because the Poa in my area, when it gets hot in the summer, I mean, it's gone. So you don't
yeah.
really have to worry about it. So, but Joe, you kept saying that you kept saying that just because somebody else is doing it doesn't mean you have to. It's really confusing sometimes when you get on YouTube because there's this expectation that everybody that's making YouTube videos about lawn care, that that everything they say applies to you, and that is just not the
No.
case. So I always tell viewers in some of my videos that you got to take kind of the responsibility on yourself from time to time to do a little bit of background research and know what you're looking for and not expect it all to be laid out in one video.
Yeah, and honestly, a lot of these people are no different than me and you. I mean, they're they're literally only tending to one lawn, and that's their own lawn. They have no other experience than their own friggin' lawn. And when it comes down to it, shut your mouth and know your role when you're talking about stuff. And and don't expect everyone to have the same expectations as you have. And but to each of its own. It's like we said, we'll move on to the next topic, but it's just don't think you have to do what everyone else is doing. That's all I'm gonna say.
You don't, because you know, sometimes it's so hard to in a what 8 to 10 minute video to really,
Yeah.
it's a game YouTubers play. They're playing a game. How can I get as much information out and still give accurate information and still get people to watch at the same time? Because it's hard to find a good balance of all that. Hey, we want to just say thanks to those of y'all joining us, though. Look, we know it's Valentine's Day, and some of you may have already done all the lovey-dovey stuff required of you from your significant other. That's the boat we're in right now. So we appreciate you being here. And like we said off the top of the show, we were hoping we would get to come on tonight and be talking about a Phillies victory or Philadelphia Eagles victory. Joe's got me talking Sixers and
Thanks for
Phillies, and
reminding me about the World Series as well.
it's been a rough sports cycle so far for Philly
Yeah.
fans. But look, should we talk about the elephant in the room, Joe?
What would that be, Travis?
I don't know.
Wonder.
Something I was really paying attention on Sunday during the Super Bowl as to the score. All I really cared about was the score. But apparently, if you're more worried about grass in sports, then the score and the game was not so much of your attention getter. Joe, you sent me this image here. Do you know, or are some of these folks that are tweeting these?
So yeah, sports radio WIP is what I listen to. That's our sports radio talk up here in Philly. 6 ABC Action News is one of our big you know what do you call it, news channels. The person in the middle, I don't know who that is. That's just someone that tweeted out how much it costs. Obviously, it cost $800,000 for this piece of shit sod that they put out there, and and then you got Hassan Reddick there. I mean, Hassan Reddick, he's a a DE. He almost could. He's almost like an outside linebacker in a way, the way he plays. Coming off the edge, and you know his main role is to get to the quarterback, obviously. I mean, he had a career high of sacks this year. The Eagles had a career high in sacks this year as well. And I personally think that this field was a complete embarrassment, honestly. And to spend $800,000 on a field and just to see these guys slip and fall. And I don't want to hear the excuses of it was just in the painted areas where the Super Bowl logo was, which that's a whole nother topic of why do we need the Super Bowl logo painted on the lawn, on the field? I mean, we obviously know what the goddamn Super Bowl logo is to begin with, and of course we have the big ass NFL shield in the middle that's painted. And they weren't just slipping in these logos, they were slipping in other areas of just about every area of the field. And whether it was the paint or the root zone mass or the science or whatever the hell you want to talk, call it, the field was a goddamn embarrassment. I'm sorry, but there's this guy out there he's 94 years old, bless his heart, the sod father, they call him, this was his last Super Bowl. And first of all, there's a conspiracy theory already going around with him because he's associated with the Kansas City Chiefs. He's like a groundskeeper for them, but somehow he can run the Super Bowl and there's no conflict of interest between, being the Eagles versus the Chiefs. Don't understand that one, but I think there was a time. I think it was his time. I think it was his time to retire, probably about 5 years ago. I could go on about this, and I know we're going to talk about this in depth tonight, but it's just the fact that I don't understand why the NFL has to bring people into Phoenix to work on the field. I don't understand the logistics.
Joe, why are you so fired up about grass though, Joe? It was just grass. It was just grass. And hey,
and believe me, I'm not the Philly fan that's going to blame the grass. We should have won the game. Our defense sucked, but the grass. I mean, obviously both teams had to play on the grass, but
hey, that's what my dad told me. I ran cross country and track, and if there was a 20-mile headwind down the backstretch at a track meet, or I was running in a cross country meet and it was 10 degrees out with, freezing drizzle or whatever it was, guess what? My dad used to tell me to quit whining about it. Everybody's got to run on the same course in the same conditions. But look, it was of course, you couldn't watch the game, whether you were totally focused on the game or you were totally focused on the turf sports field management side of it. It didn't matter which side you were on at this Super Bowl, you were noticing that players were slipping and falling like crazy. Okay? And I'm not going to sit here and I'm not going to pretend that I have any reason why that was happening. I have zero clue. I have zero clue. Joe, was it, I don't know, was it paint? I don't know. Was it paint? You know my affinity for paint because I am not look, if I ever say things and you're like, well, I put paint on my yard, budget lawns, Travis is just making fun of me. No, I couldn't care less whether you're putting paint on your lawn or not. It's just not for me. But is that what caused the
I mean,
slipping at the Super
honestly,
Bowl? I
so
don't know.
I painted my lawn last winter. And Jordan, they sent me out paint and I did a couple videos with it. And I honestly didn't like it at all. And there's no secret, just about all the NFL fields. I mean, maybe not all, but like there's a majority of them actually do paint their grass. I mean, I know that Lincoln Financial Field, they painted their grass for the NFC Championship game. I mean, it just wasn't all just Tahoma 31 because that's what the Eagles actually play on, the same turf here at the Super Bowl. They play the same on the same kind of Bermuda, Tahoma 31.
And Joe,
It's grown here in Jersey, the Tahoma 31, but as opposed to being out there. But
so
there was
there's been discussions like crazy. Was it the Bermuda? Was it the paint? I understand there was a pretty heavy overseed of perennial ryegrass. Of course, they got to make it green on TV, right? The Tahoma 31 is also here at the University of Arkansas. It was cultivated just west of here at Oklahoma State. Like, there's a lot of conversation going on right now about what the cause was. I don't think it was Bermuda because, like you just said, Joe, it couldn't have been Bermuda because it couldn't have been the Tahoma because just 2 weeks before at Lincoln Financial Field, they were playing on the same turf, and we didn't have near that problem. So was it paint? Was it the perennial ryegrass? Joe, we got a couple of videos we're going to show in a second, but you had a thought there.
mean,
And again, I don't want to pretend I know.
My experience from paint was that it was almost like basically like it like soaked into the leaf blade kind of in a way, and it was almost like a spotted look on the leaf blade. Maybe it was just the way I sprayed it. I don't know. It looked good, but I actually felt it slippery myself. Especially after like a rain. And the thing about that, I won't probably do the paint again myself because it kind of like, first of all, once it dried, it was still somewhat getting on the bottom of my shoes. Like I had Nike shoes on with a white sole, and it was like the whole bottom of the sole was green. Even a day or two after it was dry, it was still getting on the sole of my shoe. So that tells me that there is some kind of seepage or something kind of coming off the paint onto a person's shoe, which I would think it kind of makes it slippery, especially if they're either wetting this pregame or they're wetting this sometime during, and it's still not, there's moisture in the air, from it being a dome and and it being an open, roof that that stadium is. I don't know.
I read something about it there being like I watched a news story. I'm a huge news nut. That's what both of my college degrees are in, from my undergrad to my graduate degree in broadcast journalism. But I watched a news story out of a station in North Carolina, and they talked to some sports field, turf grass professionals there to kind of get their feedback on what happened. And so everything I'm saying is what I've heard and what I've read, some of the other conversations, other opinions I've come across. Just the whole, topic has generated a lot of input. And one thing I read, you said something about it. The story from North Carolina said something about that there was kind of an artificial environment inside the football stadium with the moisture from people breathing and all that stuff. But Joe, I want to look because it was clear that the field they played on 2 weeks before the Super Bowl, the Eagles at least at the Link, even though it was the same grass, had two totally different outcomes. This was the other night in Arizona. Okay, this is the field from the Super Bowl, or I don't know, perhaps you want to call it the Slippin Bowl. So, Joe, you mentioned that the Eagles are a pass rushing team, and here
Yeah.
they are
Now
on.
now here you could see Hassan Reddick and you got uh, Sweat on the side. Obviously, they're near the logo a little bit, and that's where we were seeing a lot more of the slipping, right? Um, but I mean, it's pretty clear. I mean, these guys in especially in today's age in football, you got to try and you got to get low, and that's what Hassan Reddick, number 7 there. That's what his big thing is he tries to get low so he can get underneath that tackle or that whoever is blocking on the tight end to get around them. And I mean, it's pretty clear to me these guys are just feet are just slipping out from under them. And I understand, believe me, I understand athletes, they change their cleats. I mean, we know that,
There were several change
Jalen.
their cleats at
Oh
halftime, from what I
yeah. I
heard.
mean, there was a pile on the Eagles bench with their cleats, and they were probably thinking, well, I don't know who told them. Maybe they don't know that it's the same kind of grass that they have at the link or not. And I'm sure they go out there pregame and stuff to run around. But I mean, to me, that's just too much of a routine play to be slipping like that. And I don't want to make excuses for the team, and they weren't making excuses themselves either. A lot of the players came out and said, "Look, we lost the game. We could have done things better, and we both teams had to play on the surface." But
But when you go
Eagles were
from
out.
not one single sack in the entire Super Bowl, I mean,
Yeah,
I'm no
I don't.
sports analyst either, just like I'm no grass sports field turf management professional. But I mean, I can voice my opinions on what I think might have been the case, whether it comes to losing the Super Bowl, which not getting any sacks against Patrick Mahomes. You give him a chance, you're going to have a hard time beating him. If you can't get to him, it's going to be tough. And you know, perhaps the grass had something to do with it, and it was obvious there was something wrong because if we take a look at just what was that 2 weeks before that
Yeah,
we
yeah, 2 weeks before. Yeah,
2 weeks before at Lincoln Financial Field, we're looking
same
at
thing.
almost similar
Yeah.
plays.
Here's Hassan Reddick again. I mean, he's coming off the edge here, getting around. I think it was a tight end there. And then here you got Jalen Hurts. I mean, that's his move right there, to juke these guys out. I mean, clearly no problem where he might have had an issue here at the Super Bowl slipping there. And here's another perfect example. Gainwell, nice juke move, and no issue there on his footing. Now, I've had the opportunity to go to the turf farm that the link comes from. It's called Tuckahoe Turf Farms here in Hamilton, New Jersey. It's about 30 minutes from me, and they grow turf for a whole slew of sports teams: the Browns, the Red Sox, Lambeau Field. Obviously, the link is a big one. I mean, they used to do Citizens Bank Park, and their big thing is Mountain View Seed, and their Kentucky their 365 SS. But they recently they brought a guy in that used to do warm season down south. Now he does the warm season up here, and they grow Tahoma 31. And to not this October, but last October, I got to go there and tour the whole. It's 800 acres. This sod farm. I mean, it's pretty awesome. If you like grass, and if you're in the New Jersey area, go check them out for your sod needs. And then they have grass seed, and they have a fertilizer line as well. That's good for our area. And so when I was down there, they had the Tahoma 31, and they were getting ready to actually harvest it for the link. It was actually Halloween day that they were going to do it, October 31st, 2021 it was. But they overseed it with ryegrass, just because, better color, let the longevity of it, hold up through the wintertime. It gets pretty cold here. Now I know that the lake, they do have some sort of heating elements underneath the grass. I don't know if that plays into an effect of, with the Bermuda um, now, but I mean, it held up really well. I mean, you could see it there. I mean, it's clearly definitely probably painted. And like I said, it does the field itself. If I don't have a, we don't, I didn't send you a picture, but if you've seen a full like 100-yard picture of the field, I mean, it's pretty green. So I'm assuming that they did paint this probably, sometime. But I mean, these guys, they really like the field, and their practice facility is Tahoma as well at the NovaCare. I mean,
There was a
you
lot
know,
of bashing going on about the Tahoma 31, and I can. I mean, this is proof right here. It wasn't a Bermuda grass. There was a set of variables at play out in Arizona that weren't happening in Philadelphia 2 weeks prior, that weren't happening at the
but
University of
but to
Arkansas
yeah, but
at
to
the end of our football
experiment this
field.
on a Super Bowl, this is the first time that's used in a Super Bowl. You don't experiment this shit in a Super Bowl. I'm sorry, but you don't. And you need to be critical of these people that are calling these shots. I mean, I'm sorry, but $800,000 on sod that was grown for 2 years. It's just it blows my mind that, the person that did this obviously should be fired. Whoever was in charge of this should be fired, in my
I
opinion.
mean, I owned a
And
business for 10
you
years, and
can't
it.
and I don't wanna hear this shit that you're gonna just, we're gonna learn from this and move on. No. No, this should have never happened to begin with. I'm sorry, but it looked like shit, and I mean, everyone's talking about it, and honestly, it's a bad look for the grass, the going to natural grass, like everybody wants to use nowadays, the one thing that I would say that was really good about this whole thing is there was no injuries. Obviously last year at SoFi Stadium, they use, artificial turf there. I mean, Odell blew out his, I think it was his ACL, and on a non-contact injury as well.
Hey Joe, can I bring
So
up one positive thing?
yeah,
Because the Phillies lost, that's a negative, and the grass was dismal at best. But I did see in the comment section, Chris Stapleton killed the national anthem. I don't know if Chris Stapleton comes anywhere close to this area for a concert, people lose their minds. I'm not gonna lie. I mean, he's one of my favorite as far as country artists go, but he killed the national anthem. And to your point, Joe, I would have to agree because yeah, it was probably that, Pat. Look, Rusty says it shouldn't have happened on that stage. I owned a business for 10 years, and look, if I did something and it did not meet the standards that people expected of me, and you're talking on the level of cooking burgers in a family-owned restaurant, people were critical of us. That's
yeah,
how it operates.
yeah,
From a $10 burger meal to an $800,000 sports field, if you don't perform to the level of expectations, people will be critical of you and should be critical of you. And to say that they shouldn't be, that this is something we'll learn from, is making excuses
yeah.
for your industry.
That's yeah, yeah.
Because
That's how I
if
look
I
at it.
saw other
Yeah,
restaurants as a restaurant owner doing things that made the industry look bad, I became part of solving that problem and not making excuses. So, and to say too that people shouldn't be giving their opinions about this kind of stuff, that opinions aren't fair to give if they're not backed by a formal turf grass education or backed by uh, whatever you want to call it, science, that you can't give your opinions if you don't have those two things in your corner is just ridiculous. Joe, it'd be like me. I have a master's degree and an undergrad degree in broadcast journalism. It would be like me getting my panties all in a wad on YouTube all the time over all these amateur journalists who have their own journalism YouTube channels and never went to college for it and spreading fake news and lies or whatever people want to call it. It would be like me getting my butt so hurt all the time and going into their comment sections or starting a YouTube channel to bash them and make fun of them and show videos of them and act like it's okay to pick on amateurs, but not pick on the real journalist on mainstream national media. It doesn't make sense. Isn't that backwards? How that? So
There,
look, if
you ever
people
hear of you ever hear of a term? Stay in your lane.
stay in your lane.
Just stay in your lane and focus on the professionals and not the amateurs like us. That yeah, we like to have an opinion, whether we're wrong or we're right. That's fine, but these are professionals in that in this industry and like to bring it back to myself, this would be like me wiring a customer, not a customer but a vendor in my career, $800,000, and my owner going, it's okay, Joe, it will do better next time. You learn from this time. You just don't do it next time, right? Yeah, no, I get my ass fired on the spot, and probably it would affect my career as well. You just don't. This should have never happened, and for people to say that you can't be critical of them or put down on them, I'm sorry, but this is the reason why. We're gonna have the World Cup here in a couple years, and all these places that have artificial turf. Guess what? These players aren't going to play on artificial turf. They want to play on grass. That's how
So
these European clubs are. That they take their grass very seriously overseas, and I see it all the time. And if we can't get our shit straight now on a goddamn Super Bowl or one game of a year, I'm sorry, but this World Cup's going to be a goddamn disaster.
So here's maybe what it was, Joe. I think we've missed the mark on all this, whether it be paint, whether it be the overseed, whether it be the Tahoma, which it wasn't a Tahoma. Maybe we're being critical about the wrong things. Maybe this was it, Joe. Who is this guy? You set this one up. Explain this
Yeah,
one to
so
us.
I was Pat McAfee. He's got his show. I like him. He's got some good takes, and he had this up on his show today. I think he got this from like a Reddit post or something. And I just think it's funny that the real cool dad, his comment there, the pros played on the field and the cons sold the NFL this turf. And Penn State, they got a big turf grass program at Penn State, and I just think it's funny that that's his logo. I'm not a big fan of Penn State myself for some of the shit they've done in their past, but it's just I just love the fact that they paid $800,000 for this field, but people out there will bitch and complain at you for using different products from different people and spending money on different products, but they got conned out $800,000. It's like, well, guess what, buddy? Stay in your lane. Shut your mouth. Know your role. And if these people out there want to spend their money on things, they can. It's called capitalism. That's where we live. We live in the United States. We have a freedom of speech as well, which a lot of people forget.
No, Joe,
But
you can't give your opinion on turf
I
grass if you
know.
don't have a turf grass degree. Look, nowhere. I've been doing this YouTube channel since July of 2009 or 19, July of 2019. Find me one video or one place on my channel where I've pretended to be a turf grass professional or sold a product and pushed a product or however you want to shape it to say at that point you can give me a hard time. Once I start doing those things, feel free to give me a hard time because I've set myself up for that. But to go after the average homeowner Joe, hard in the paint like us, to say that it's okay to ridicule and ruin our type of people's reputation, to say that that's okay, but it's not okay to go after your own in the industry that screwed up royally and made it look like a bunch of clowns and rookie fools and amateurs, to say that that's not okay to ridicule them and criticize them and defame them and go after their reputation. That we shouldn't do that, but by God, go after the the little guy that's just trying to have a nice lawn in his neighborhood, and at the end of the
No,
day, he's still going to
little
go to work
little
40 to 50
little
hours a week at another job and not get paid a dime to do lawn care. That's
I know,
makes sense,
little
Joe.
I know, it's just we're just little lawn warriors and turf mechanics out here, and we just wanna have nice lawns, and whether we how we get there or not, who we buy it from is our business, and when you're spending that kind of money on a turf and it looks like that, like I said, it's just a bunch of jabronis. That's all it is. They're a bunch of jabronis, and it's just, uh, I'm glad we talked about this. I'm actually kinda glad this happened in a way because Travis, it kinda in a way it realizes it takes you back and it makes you realize that we all do care about lawns, in some way we do care, and obviously these professionals they need to care about their lawns a little bit more than we do as homeowners. I mean, it's whew,
The
if
lawn for
this is
me
whew.
is just something to keep me occupied. And I like watching it go downhill and back uphill and get better and get worse. Whatever, really, it's whatever life is throwing at me at the moment. It's what dictates the lawn. I am not going to run out at the drop of a hat to go do something in the lawn out of some sort of fear or anxiety or pressure that some weirdo on the internet is making me feel like I have to go out and do it, because really, I promise you, there are a lot of these people that it's an unhealthy obsession. I
Oh,
guarantee it.
yeah,
And they
yeah.
haven't, and you know why I speak about this? And some people will say, oh, what are you, a
You didn't strike
psychiatrist
your
now?
lawn today.
You,
Shame on you.
you don't have a degree in psychology, or you're not a whatever. But I can tell you from experience, because I speak everything I speak on my channel and on this show from experience. I went down the unhealthy obsession of reading too much and watching too much and thinking that if I didn't do what that person was telling me to do online, that everything was going to explode around me. My lawn was going to break out in every weed known to man, and it was going to be a complete nightmare. And now I take more pride in letting it just go and let my life dictate what I do in the lawn, not my lawn dictate what I do in my life. And then it's more fun for all those people trying to point fingers at you and tell you that you should have done this and should have done that.
Yeah.
Guess what? It's funnier to show the videos, and it's more fulfilling to show the videos and pictures after the fact to say, oh, you remember last time when you told me that if I didn't put really take care of my lawn in the fall, that it wouldn't store up carbohydrates for the winter, and then come next spring, it wouldn't come out of dormancy fast enough? Oh my gosh, if it doesn't come out of dormancy fast enough, I might just sell the house and move back into an apartment where somebody else can do the lawn care for me. Who
Let's
cares?
so we got about what 10 minutes left,
We
and
look, our deal here
and
is on this show, if we're not done in an hour, you could slap us in the face, because what we want this show to be for you is not something that you have to catch live, but that hopefully it'll be an hour's worth of conversation that you want to come back and pick away at, and not some 4 hour live stream that we're only staying on because people are paying us a super chat every 5 minutes for our fake professional knowledge. You feel me? Go ahead, Joe. I cut you off.
yeah, I mean, we covered this topic pretty heavily tonight, and I think we both got our opinions out there, and I thought maybe for the last 10 minutes, you got any other topics? I mean, I got something I could
Look,
talk about.
you said that it was kind of nice that this grass thing happened, because if we were to have scripted this show last week, Joe, you would still be wearing a Phillies toboggan. I would be wearing a Phillies old vintage Randall Cunningham jersey and my Phillies toboggan. You might call it a beanie. I don't know, whatever you call
A
it.
beanie.
We
A
call them
beanie.
toboggans. But here we are, we're not having that conversation we hoped we would have. And
Yeah.
if it weren't for the grass, we would probably have moved on past the Super Bowl and acted like it never happened. So I'm glad it happened too, because there was a lot of conversation about it. And I think the conversation is only valuable and worth listening to if a lot of people are chiming in with their opinions, whether they are right, wrong, you agree or disagree. But I've seen in some of these conversations out there that there are people scolding and chastising people for giving their opinions. That's what opinions are. An opinion doesn't have to be backed by a whole lot. It can be backed by what you think, not what you professionally know or what science says. All right, I got to get off that because you feel me.
I feel you.
The Philly connection, Rusty, is when I was a kid, I picked out a Philadelphia Eagles uniform out of the J.C. Penney catalog as a wee little 5 or 6 year old. And when you do that, when you're that young, you just stick with
And
it.
and for me, for the Duke connection, I know we talked about. I don't think I ever told you my Duke connection was. It was March Madness. I was in middle school. It was UConn and it was Duke. They were in the Final Four. It was Chris Duham was on the team at the time, and it was like my first year ever playing brackets for March Madness. And I wanted to root for a team in the Final Four, and that's who I had was Duke. And ever since then, my first Duke jersey was a 21 Chris Duhon jersey, and then JJ Redick came along, and I had a JJ Redick jersey, and I've followed them ever since. And
Hey, the
yeah,
Hogs beat Duke in the '94 national championship. Grant Hill was the
Grant
stud at
Hill,
Duke in '94. The Hogs
yeah.
beat them, and then we got beat by UCLA in the finals the next year. But look, hey, if you have topics you want to discuss on this show, you let us know. Okay, we know
Yeah.
you want to hear about grass, and the grass talk will pick up in number. But hey, here's the last thing I want to say. There's a radio
Well,
show, and I've told you
I
about this, Joe. Go ahead.
yeah, go ahead. Yeah,
But
before we go, I got one more topic we can hit on, I think, before we go. But go ahead, you go.
okay, there's a radio show that I listen to in the afternoons on the way home. And I told Joe it's a sports talk radio show. They sprinkle in sports, but they also talk to their listeners the way life kind of goes. And sports brings us all together. And we're going to talk about sports, but we're also going to talk about other things. Just like here, we're going to talk about grass, but we want to talk about other things. And it kind of came full circle with the conversation about the grass. A guy called into the show this afternoon, and he gave his opinion on who he thought the starting lineup should be in the Arkansas Razorback basketball game tomorrow. Of course, that set other listeners off, and they're texting in and they're going crazy about that's a terrible lineup, blah blah blah. And you know what the host of the show said? Hey, that's his opinion. He
Yeah.
he called in and gave us his opinion. You know what you can do instead of bitching and moaning about his opinion? You can call into the show and give us your opinion too.
Yeah.
And I
I
thought,
almost I almost called in today about the grass topic on my radio shows. These guys kept bringing it up and up and up, and I'm like, should I call? I kept tweeting at the guys and like telling them like this is the grass that they're using. It's the same as the grass that's used at the link. It just didn't work out at these people obviously didn't know what the hell they were doing. But
hey Joe,
yeah, it
we
was just
got we
funny.
got less than a minute 24. What you got? You want to save it for next week?
Yeah, um,
I don't want to get slapped in the
it
face.
might not be relevant next week. UFOs.
UFOs. Oh, we could talk
So
about
we've
that
seen
next week.
all right, let's talk about it next
We
week.
could. It's
All right.
not going anywhere. We're going to keep shooting down stuff,
All right.
flying over Canada for at least the next month. It sounds like. All right.
Yeah, and yeah, so
That's a great end to this one. Look, y'all, we appreciate you. Share this with your friends. Share this with your other lawn nuts, your other friends that aren't lawn nuts. Anybody else that you think should come hang out with us, talk grass, talk life, talk sports, talk whatever. We want to have you. We'll be back 9 Eastern, 8 Central next week here on the program with no name. I'm Travis, and you are.
I'm Joe. And just one more thing. Just remember, guys, shut your mouth and know your role, you jabronis.
That's the way to end it. We'll see y'all next week. Thanks, guys.